Welcome in TNCRadio.live. This is Clutch Time. I'm Tom Kelly along with Ivan Anderson and Josh Banker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tom Kelly. Good evening, you truckers out there on the beautiful road of America. I'm sitting here in sunny California. I'm your co-host, Ivan Anderson, along with Josh Banker. It's a nice, cool 68, 69, 66. I don't care. It's somewhere in the 60s, JB, and I'm loving the weather right now.
Yeah, it feels like, since, pumpkin spiced everything has been out since, end of August, like it should be fall already, but we certainly haven't had any of that yet here in Southern California. Although we had some thunderstorms a couple weekends ago, but that sure didn't last very long.
It didn't. I was in Rhode Island when that happened.
Yep.
And everybody told me that it rained pretty nicely, but we could have used a lot more rain than what we received, but that's okay. I'm just glad that it's cool and we're not dealing with this 100+ degree weather anymore. I'm enjoying it. I can't wait till we get on the real time. I'm sorry. I'm one of those people that do not like daylight savings time. I hate it. I think it's a waste of time. If you want more day, get up early. That's my saying.
That's the most profound thing I've ever heard. Daylight savings time is a waste of time. And now you know the rest of the story. There should have been an episode on daylight savings time. That would have been awesome.
That actually would be. Take a poll on that one. Well, JB, let's get into one of your favorite sports, and let me have a moment of silence for my Yankees. I said it. I've been saying it. I was concerned about the postseason for the Yankees. I felt that we peaked somewhere between 80 and 85 games, and the Astros, the best team. Of course, the Astro guy is going to say that. He's going to throw that in there because he loves the Astros, and rightfully so. They showed up and did what they were supposed to do, and I have nothing against the Astros. They had the best record overall in the American League. They won over 100 games, and they're just playing great baseball. And I'll be honest with you, Tom, I hope they win because I'm a Dusty Baker fan. I liked him when he was coaching at the Giants. I liked him when he was coaching with the Cubs. And I think this is number 11 that he's attending the Fall Classic, and I hope he wins this year.
How about that?
And you got to like him too, JB. He used to be the guy for your team.
Well, yeah, I definitely have nothing against Dusty Baker. I have been so impressed with everything that he's been able to pull the strings with for Houston. I mean, they're undefeated in the playoffs. Yes, that's even relevant for baseball too. But I'd be remiss if I didn't have Mr. Tom Kelly come in and chime in on his Astros. Because what do you think, Tom? Are you afraid of teams that feel like they're teams of destiny, like the Phillies have become, or at this point, are you as an Astro fan like, what do we have to worry about? Because obviously nobody has done anything to us yet this playoffs.
Yeah, until somebody hurts us, we can't be hurt.
And not only that, but I mean, you kind of wonder, like, okay, we're 7-0 in the playoffs, and at this point, we haven't lost. Have we run out of juice yet? Is that even crossed your mind?
No. Until they show weakness, I find it a little funny about these people. Like, well, the Astros, everything's been going great for them, but now they're going to face this Phillies team of destiny. And until somebody can show that they can actually beat the Astros, I feel like it's just people trying to make conversation so that somebody will tune into the games.
Well, I mean, the Phillies are certainly playing with house money at this point. Nobody expected them to get in, and they wouldn't have got into the playoffs if it weren't for the reformatting of the seeding and everything for the playoffs this year, because they were obviously the number 6 seed in the National League, and then they had to win in St. Louis. They won 2 out of 3 there, and then they took pretty good Padres team who defeated the best team in Major League Baseball, the Dodgers, at least overall record-wise during the regular season, and dismantled the Padres pretty easily, if you ask me. I mean, it didn't really feel like the Padres didn't have much of a puncher's chance.
Yeah, they made it look easy, but again, the Padres aren't the Astros.
For sure.
And, it's, I think they have kind of an interesting approach in flipping around their 1 and 2 starters for the first 2 games. They're basically saying, look, we're not sure that we can beat you this way, but we want to take a split out of there, so we're going to wait and put our better pitcher on the second game. And yeah, okay, we'll see if that works. It depends on a lot of, look, our number 3, number 4 pitchers would be ace pitchers for most teams.
And what I like about, sorry, Ivan, I was going to say, what I like about what the Astros have done this postseason is, it seemed like Yordan Alvarez kind of carried the team at least through the Seattle series, but through the series against the Yankees, it was one guy after another, whether it was Bregman or Tucker, or even just the pitching staff and the bullpen has been terrific too. It's not just been one guy that's been carrying the Astros. While you wonder if somebody could have settled down Bryce Harper in that Padres series if they had enough guys to be able to keep up with San Diego. I know Schwarber hit a home run here and there, and so did Rhys Hoskins, but I don't know. That's the one thing about the Astros that just makes them scary, even more scary than they are, is the fact that they're undefeated in the playoffs, and Jose Altuve has been absolutely awful.
He has not swung the bat well, but you can't say he's been awful in the sense, he's made some spectacular plays out in the field. He came up with a couple clutch hits the other night when they needed him. But that's the thing. We're set up in such a way that we don't have to have all the pistons firing.
Yeah.
Where on the other hand, let's say in the first time he comes up to bat, what's his name? Just went out of my. Who you just talking
Bryce
about?
Harper.
Bryce Harper comes up to bat, swings funny, and tweaks an ab or something. That's the end of the Phillies.
Right.
He stubs his toe in the locker room before he goes out there the first night. The Phillies are done.
Yeah, and I've been really impressed, too, with what Jeremy Pena has brought to the dance in his first playoffs as a rookie. You kind of forget how good Carlos Correa has been because Jeremy Pena has been even better as a clutch hitter for the Astros in this first playoff series.
Yeah, no, he plays like an old man, and he's got the confidence, and a lot of that comes from his father. I remember watching his father play back in the day, and he doesn't act like a rookie. He doesn't talk like a rookie. He just gets in there and does his business. He's not as good as Carlos Correa when it comes to the bat. He's not. Okay? But when you think about how much does it cost to have Carlos on your team versus how much does it cost to have Pena on your team, he's worth a whole lot more.
So
what a bargain.
Who's going to win the starting pitcher situation? I'm looking at the starting pitchers. Who do you who do you think is going to win that battle?
Well, again, until you prove to me that it's not the Astros, it's the Astros. I'll tip my hat.
And if the Phillies have a chance, they have to win that battle.
They have to win. They have to. If they have a chance, they have to get the split before they get out of here.
Josh, you think Nola pitched that good in that stadium? I don't know what he did last. Didn't they play earlier in the year?
I don't remember if they had any head-to-head meetings during the season, but the last outing that Nola had against the Padres, he got pummeled.
Yep.
So I'm kind of in agreement with you, Tom, in the fact that I'm a little surprised that they are not starting with Wheeler instead of Nola.
Well, because they believe that there's a pretty good chance Nola may not win. But Wheeler, if you're going to take your best guy, don't put him against Verlander, who always gives you the 55% chance of winning. So it doesn't matter. Wheeler's not as good. Neither one of them are as good as Verlander. And when Verlander's at his best, neither one of them are as good.
See, and the thing I don't like about that call strategically is that if you don't use your best guy first, you don't have the opportunity to use him as much as you would the guy that starts the first game of the series. In other words, you can have him pitch the first game. You can maybe have him pitch the fourth or fifth game and then have him ready for game 7 if you need him as well. I mean, you kind of lose a little bit of the longevity that you could have had, from Zach Wheeler, where, who knows if you can get the same kind of ace stuff from Aaron Nola the rest of the way. You just never know.
Yeah, but so let's jump to game 3. Regardless of what, let's say the first 2 games are split. Who has the pitching advantage then?
It's a good question. I mean, like you said, I think you have to give it to the Astros the entire way.
Yeah, in the bullpen, Astros all the way. Fielding, Astros all the way. Hitting,
Robertson.
I got no problem saying Harper's the best hitter on the field, but he's not so much better than anybody on the Astros that they can. So he gets his home runs. It's going to take more than just him to beat the Astros.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
well, we could talk all hour about the upcoming World Series, which starts on Friday, by the way, in case you all wondered. The first 2 games against Houston Friday and Saturday, and then off to Philly starting on Halloween night on Monday. But we're going to get into more topics. You've been listening to Clutch Time Sports right here on TNCRadio.live.
I think we should spend the whole hour talking about Astros.
Of course you do.
Of course you do.
All right. Be right back.
Wah, wah, wah.
You're listening to TNCRadio.live. Remember to tune into the Truckers Network radio show with Shelley Johnson, weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
This blog on TNCRadio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 6 safety tips for truck drivers while driving in the rain. As a truck driver, you'll experience driving in dangerous weather conditions. Driving in the rain creates difficult and dangerous driving conditions for truckers. It's important for truck drivers to be alert and cautious when driving in the rain. Check out our 6 safety tips for truck drivers while driving in the rain. Slow down. Wet roads make it difficult for a driver to control their truck. A good rule of thumb is to drive 5 miles per hour below the speed limit. In some cases, you might have to drive more than 5 miles an hour below. Professional truck drivers adjust their speed according to the weather. When driving in dangerous conditions, only drive the speed you're comfortable with. Leave space. Leaving the appropriate amount of space between each vehicle will give a truck driver enough time to react. A fully loaded tractor-trailer traveling at 65 miles an hour needs about 5 seconds of space to stop. Drivers will have to increase the space between the cars while driving in dangerous weather conditions. Maintain your vehicle. Having your vehicle routinely checked will make driving in the rain more safe. Frequently check your truck's tires to make sure they have enough tread. Also, check your windshield wipers to see if they're working properly. Avoid standing water. Driving through standing water increases the chance of hydroplaning. Hydroplaning causes a driver to lose control of the truck and can result in serious injuries. Standing water also hides potholes and other debris that might be on the road. It's important to always avoid standing water while driving in the rain. Wear your seatbelt. Wearing a seatbelt is a requirement for all truckers, especially in dangerous weather conditions. Eliminate distractions. While driving in the rain, eliminate all distractions. If you drive with the radio on, turn the volume low so you can concentrate. Avoid touching your GPS or looking at it for long periods of time, and avoid using your cell phone. This blog on TNCRadio.live has been brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Hey drivers, did you hear music on TNCRadio.live that you really liked? Or maybe you heard us interview an author of a book you'd like to read or listen to. You can get the books, music, and other products you hear about by going to our website at www.tncradio.live and clicking on the shopping cart.
The rest of the story. One likes to think of a team as needing all of its members to succeed, and yet inevitably certain team members will stand out, and some do become indispensable. In 1970, the Boston Bruins pro hockey team was counting on Phil Esposito. He was an outstanding, sometimes astounding hockey player. The season prior, he had scored 126 points, shattering the old National Hockey League record for goals netted in one season by 29. In fact, Phil Esposito was one of the two players responsible for the Bruins' swift rise in the NHL between 1967 and 1970. Sports columns admiringly referred to him as the hard-driving forward. Phil Esposito, and when he was up, none was quicker, none shot harder. But late in the 1970 season, something went wrong. Phil was in a scoring slump, standing uncomfortably in the shadow of his accomplishments the year previous. At times like that, an athlete can't help but wonder, is it over? Has he already done the best that he will ever be able to do? And at times like that, a fellow needs a friend. Phil's best friend was then and still is a colleague, another hockey player named Tony. Late one evening, Phil's phone rang, and it was Tony calling to chat. Predictably, the conversation drifted to Phil's late-season scoring trouble. And he said, "What am I doing wrong?" Phil asked friend Tony, "What am I doing wrong?" Tony believed that he knew what Phil was doing wrong. Tony frequently watched Phil and the Bruins play in televised games, and lately it had seemed that Phil was not handling the puck enough. He was not shooting often enough. Tony related this to Phil, and suddenly a light went on. Tony's observation made perfect sense. Phil had so dazzled himself with his own past achievements that his performance on the ice was becoming tentative. So Phil made up his mind. After that phone call, he would follow Tony's advice. He would handle the puck more. He would shoot more. And just in time for the Stanley Cup playoffs, Phil did. That season, it was the Bruins versus the formidable Chicago Blackhawks. First game of the season, the Bruins won 6-3, and 3 of those winning goals were scored by Phil Esposito. In fact, the Bruins won the Stanley Cup, and they won in 4 straight games. Phil had indeed recovered from his worrisome scoring slump, all because of a phone call. You know to whom the initial credit belongs, Phil's best friend Tony. Tony Esposito, Phil's younger brother. Now, wait a minute. Tony, incidentally, was NHL Rookie of the Year his first season. He quickly went on to become a shutout record-holding goalie for the Chicago Blackhawks. That's right. What I'm saying is that Tony Esposito was a goalie for the Hawks during those Stanley Cup games with the Boston Bruins. He, Tony, was defending his Chicago goal the very best that he could, but he lost because he had already told his brother Phil on the opposing team how to win again. And now you know the rest of the story.
Welcome back, Josh. That was really good. The Esposito brothers.
Yeah, a little hockey, which doesn't get a whole lot of run here.
It doesn't, and it's not hockey. It's hockey.
Hacky?
Hockey.
Got it. Well, you've always lived closer to the Canadian border than I ever have, so I will bow to your reverence on that one.
The Esposito brothers. You know, there's a lot of family that played in that profession. It's amazing. I mean, he played for one of the original 6 teams. You think about the uniforms. You think about the goalie pads back then. You think about how small the goal was. It's such a different game. I mean, a lot of those guys skated around with no helmets.
Well, it's funny because the goal back then, if you look at old tapes, looked way much bigger than it does now, but that's because the guys now are wearing 50 pounds of pads that cover 150% of their body. So, I mean, yeah, of course the goals are going to look smaller now because, well, there's more being covered by the goalie's equipment in front of the net.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're going
to actually talk about some hockey in Trey Rangs coming up next segment too.
Yes, we are, and I'm excited to hear that. I was actually watching the the Golden Knights from Las Vegas yesterday, and right now, I guess you would call it a portion of it's not the Subway Series like when you hear the Yankees and the Mets go at it, but it's similar to that right now. The Rangers and the Islanders are going at it, so I can just imagine how many fish and squids get thrown in that ice. I hope there's not too many fights in the stands tonight, but that's always a great rivalry.
Yeah, we'll talk more hockey in the next segment, but Ivan, I know you wanted to talk a little bit NBA, kind of a follow-up to having our guest last week, Joey Lynn, on, and just how things have started over the first week of this NBA season.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this year because we've got some players that are back like Ben Simmons, and for me, he's been playing excellent basketball. And of course, Giannis and the Bucks, they start off at 1,000% and they continue to roll. But I had to pick on this, or not really pick on it, but I had to bring this up. So today I was just kind of scrambling around on Instagram, and the Cavs, I guess, were playing the other night. I didn't know it, but the Cavs broadcasters, JB, are basically making a pitch to LeBron James. As you know, the rumor has been for the past couple of years that they're building this team for him to come back. And so yesterday, I believe, was their game, or maybe it was the day before, but the broadcasters were going, wow, LeBron James is on a really bad team. I mean, my goodness, they're 0-3. I would hate to play for that team. Can you imagine if he was here? I mean, they were making such a strong pitch. I was like, if this guy hears this, he might get up and say, hey, let me go join this team because I only have 1 year guaranteed, which is this year with the Lakers.
Well, and it's interesting. I was at lunch today. I was watching ESPN, and they were saying that the Lakers, and forgive us because literally this is all we hear on sports talk radio down here in Southern California. It is Lakers 24/7, which was nice to have Joey Lynn on last week because he's a Clippers guy, writes for SI, covers the Clippers. So it's kind of nice to hear some of that other side of the coin. But I mean, the Lakers are in Denver tonight, which that's tough. And then they're in Minnesota, who's 2-2 and has Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns and a bunch of good players out there. And then they're back home to play the Nuggets again. So they were talking today about when do the Lakers win their first game? Because after that, they get the Pelicans, who've been really good, and then the Jazz at home on November the 4th. Okay, maybe you get a win there too. That might be the first one, but they can conceivably be 0-6 before they ever see a win.
For me, they will get a win is when they put, I hate to say it, Westbrook coming off the bench, and they have, I don't know, they have some fire put into Anthony Davis like he played against Portland the other day. Did you see? I think he was 25, 15 or 16 and 6, 25 buckets, 16 boards, and 6 block shots. And I think he even had 2 or 3 assists to mix it in there. I mean, Anthony Davis has to play like that. And you know what's really interesting, Josh? There's 3 years ago, we were talking about Anthony Davis as an MVP candidate, as one of the top 10 best players in the league. I don't know if he's that right now. I don't know if we can talk about him like that.
And it becomes interesting when a guy is labeled injury prone, and Anthony Davis is certainly that. But you kind of wonder if that gets into the players' own heads as well. Do I play at 100% all the time on every play, or do I try to manage things as much as I can and not, try to avoid any kind of injury that I can? I mean, you'd have to think that, especially in the professional league like the NBA, you cannot have that mentality, because if you do, you're going to be in the dust before too long.
You can't have that mentality at all at any level of sports. You either go all out or someone gets hurt. I mean, they tell you that in football, baseball, basketball, whatever the sport is, you have to go all out. If you hold back, chances are you will get hurt or someone else will get hurt. But I think if they go with a starting lineup of Juan Toscano, it's sad to say Pat Bev, Davis, LeBron James, and I think I can't remember who was the other guy out there. I think it was Walker, the fourth. I think that's a winning situation for them. But I'm not the coach. I'm not the GM. It's going to be up to them. But I tell you right now, if they don't make some kind of decisions, even if they go to their G League and pull up someone that can shoot, it's not going to matter, because in the NBA, you have to have outside shooters.
Well, and they are pretty historically bad right now from 3-point range. And one of the things that we kind of talked about with Joey last week is, outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis, who scares you on that team? You take away Davis and you take away LeBron, is Westbrook going to take over a game? He doesn't do that anymore. Pat Bev is not that guy. Lonnie Walker is not that guy. So,
nope.
You're in a division with the Warriors, Suns, Clippers. Sacramento actually has some guys that could scare you if you let them loose. De'Aaron Fox, for one. That guy is so fun to watch. But the Lakers just, it'll be interesting. I really do. I would be interested to see LeBron on Cleveland again, just because of the team that they've got around him now. Set up there for him with Mitchell and Jared Allen and a bunch of those guys up there. So you never know. The NBA is strange. You never can quite tell anymore. Who would have ever imagined Donovan Mitchell as a Cleveland Cavalier? I would not put my dollar in that hat for sure.
Hey, did you see Klay Thompson last night?
I'm all things
I got
Klay.
full rings. I got full rings.
In the past 4 years. No, I'm just kidding. That's another segment. But speaking of another segment, we got to get out to a break. We'll be back right here on Clutch Time Sports on TNCRadio.live.
You're listening to TNC Radio.live. Remember to tune into the Truckers Network Show with Shelley Johnson. Weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. I'm an old dad with young kids, and sometimes, because I love them so much, they manipulate they manipulate me a lot. And I give in, and I end up doing things or giving things that I probably shouldn't. In fact, what I'm doing is I'm enabling them. Well, how do you know the difference between enabling and helping? Well, my rule of thumb is this. If you're ever doing something for someone that they could or should be doing for themselves, there's a really good chance you're enabling. If they're doing everything they can, the best they can do, and you assist them, you're probably helping them. Leo Buscaglia was a famous professor at the University of Southern California. And he had a very loving relationship with his mother. In fact, she called him Felice, or happy. And Leo tells a story about when he decided to take all of his money and head to Italy with the guys and just have a wonderful time while his mother was back in the States. And at some point, predictably, he ran out of money. And back in the day, there was no internet, and he was looking for the cheapest way to send a message back home to get his mother's assistance. And so he used a telegram. And a telegram charges you by the letter, so he wanted his message to be brief. And so he wrote, "Mom, starving. Leo." And his mother took 24 hours to think this over because she loved Leo. And finally she wrote him back and she said, "Felice, starve, Mom." She didn't want her son to starve. She wanted him to finally learn to be a grown-up. So she finally pulled the plug on that. Leo says that mother said that was the hardest thing she ever did and the most loving thing she could ever do for her kids. And for me, I got to figure out how to do the same thing.
TNCRadio.live, your commercial driver navigation station.
That is such a beautiful sound. I love it. Well, it is our third segment. Welcome back to Clutch Time Sports. I'm your host with the co-host and host and co-host and co-host and host. You know what I'm saying. Anyways, JB and myself. But you guys, come on. Let's be realistic. We know what time it is. It's that time of the day. That's because in the last 4 years, we done won Trey Rang.
Well, after a week off to bask in the glory of the NBA preview that we did with Joey Lynn, Trey Rangs is back with a vengeance. And we kind of talked about this earlier, Ivan, as we start on Rang number 1. You know, a sport that doesn't get a lot of run here on Clutch Time Sports. And maybe we'll get a little bit more into hockey as the season goes along. But ironically, the game you were watching last night, Ivan, did you notice or hear about anything special that happened in that game?
In hockey?
Yeah,
with the
Golden Knights game.
No, not with the Golden Knights.
So last night, the Cal Ripken Jr. of hockey, Mr. Phil Kessel, appeared in his 990th consecutive game. The streak started on November 3rd, 2009, back when Ivan was just 18 years old. He did it in style, too, as the 35-year-old winger also scored his 400th goal in the Golden Knights' 4-2 win over the Sharks. Now, Philadelphia Flyers defenseman Keith Yandle had set the previous record of 989 games, obviously, and was still going before he decided to retire before this upcoming season. Now, Ivan, we all know that Cal Ripken in his 2,000-plus games as a baseball player is ridiculous, but as a hockey player, 990 games, I mean, how many sets of teeth do you think he's gone through in 990 games?
I don't even know if he has those things down there anymore. 90 games.
990 games straight for a hockey player. That's just awesome. So our tip of the cap, you know, maybe some squid thrown on the ice for you, Phil, but congratulations, Mr. Phil Kessel. Okay, Rang number 2. And if anyone knows anything about this next story, I kind of mentioned this earlier. I'll bet our producer, Mr. Tom Kelly, knows something about it. So, Tom, does the name The Mattress Mac ring a bell for you?
No, does it ring a bell? I have met him. And
you have? Okay.
And sitting right next to furniture that I bought from him. So, there you go.
There you go. So, Astro superfan Mr. Jim Mackingvale, also known better as Mattress Mac. He's a furniture magnate, now that Mr. Tom Kelly surprised us with that, in the Houston area, and is also a high-stakes sports gambler. So he's been a local fixture for years in the Houston area, but became more well-known nationally in 2017 when he opened up his showroom doors to help shelter hundreds of Hurricane Harvey victims, which is something he'd done during Hurricane Katrina as well. But later in 2017, he ran a promotion where anyone that had bought a mattress from Gallery Furniture would get it for free if the Astros won the World Series. But to hedge his bet, Mattress Mac placed 7-figure bets on the Astros to win the World Series, which worked because he had to refund more than $10 million in sold mattresses. So now you move ahead 5 years to the present day, and that promotion / hedge bet has quintupled in size to what is about to be a record-breaking $75 million World Series play. So by the start of the World Series here, Mattress Mac said he'll have about $10 million riding on the Astros at an average bet of 7.5 to 1. So,
wow.
No pressure there, Verlander, in game 1, but Mattress Mac's going to be giving you a ring, taking his California King back from you if you don't step up for World Series game number 1. Have you heard that story, Tom?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's constant here. And he's on constantly. I mean, not every commercial break, but pretty much every commercial break on every channel, you get Mattress Mac.
Well, if you haven't seen it yet, I encourage all the listeners to actually check out ESPN's website because they did an awesome story about Mattress Mac, which is kind of where I got a lot of this information. But I had not realized that his reach for the World Series was basically up to $75 million. That's just ridiculous, but kind of cool at the same time. So, rank number 3, let's end with some love to some unsung heroes, Mr. Anderson. Okay. Those that work behind the scenes and never get the credit they deserve, kind of like Mr. Tom Kelly. After the Tennessee Volunteers beat Alabama for the first time in 16 years a couple Saturdays ago, Darren Siebold, the director of sports surface management, yes, that's an actual position, for the Vols, stood at Neyland Stadium knowing that he and his crew had a mammoth job ahead of them with another game basically coming the following Saturday. And as you may have seen online or on highlights, the goalposts were ripped out, carried up and out of the stadium and dunked into the Tennessee River. And then thousands of fans ran onto the field with people ripping up chunks of turf from the famed checkerboard end zone just to have some sort of memorabilia from that game. So what did they do? Well, Siebold and his whole team unloaded the entire shed of aerators, fertilizers, mowers, blowers, and shop vacs to simply vacuum the field of all the debris, especially the victory cigars that had been left on the field. Siebold said he also couldn't believe the amount of clothes, cigar glass tubes, and sunglasses, which was kind of remarkable because it was a night game, that were disposed of after the crowd of nearly 102,000 people left the premises. But if you watched any of the highlights from last week's Tennessee game, their game against UT Martin, you would never known that 102,000 people had ripped the place to shreds because of the fantastic work of the Tennessee director of sports surface. I need to see it and actually read it to know that there is a director of sports surface management, and that is thanks. Let's get a trans. Yeah. I mean, what a kick in the grass that is. But anyway, I digress, and we've not talked about college football for a couple of weeks because we had the NBA special on last week, but I'm one of those guys that really doesn't have a huge allegiance to anybody like I know you do with Michigan, who's now number 4 in the country, but it's kind of nice to see Tennessee number 3 in the country. TCU is number 7. They're 7-0. It's kind of interesting to see some of these teams that you're not used to seeing in the top, let's say top 15. I mean, Wake Forest is tied for number 10 in the country. Aren't they a basketball school? Isn't that where Tim Duncan? Is that who?
Tim Duncan and
Chris Paul, right?
And CP3. That's right.
Yeah. So, these basketball powerhouses are actually becoming football powerhouses all at the same time.
It's shocking me. I mean, if you'd have told me that Wake Forest was going to be in the top 10, really, I'm stunned. I mean, TCU hasn't been there in a very long time. I mean, they're ranked 7th. And, Georgia and Ohio State and Tennessee, it's going to be very interesting. This is just getting started. That's the wonderful thing about it. This is just getting started. It's all going to be about what's going to happen this coming weekend and who's going to be playing this coming weekend. So I'm excited to see the Notre Dame-Syracuse game, Ohio State-Penn State game coming up. That's going to be a great game. And I don't know. I think last year they played at Ohio State, so I think this year it's at Penn, or it might be wrong.
Yeah, you're right. It is at Penn State this year.
So that's going to be real interesting. Penn State is known kind of like Iowa. They're known for knocking off top 5 guys. So that's going to be a hard game within the Big Ten. Oklahoma State at Kansas State. That's going to be an exciting game. West Virginia at TCU. I like that. I like West Virginia. I think they're a good team. They're not ranked, but I think they're still a good team. And if I'm Tennessee, if I'm TCU, I'm not going to walk in there and think that I'm just going to, just mow over this team. And Cincinnati. You talk about a basketball school. When I think of Cincinnati, I think of guys like Nick Van Exel and Kenyon Martin. I don't think of guys in the football program, and they're there. They've been there for probably about a good decade or two.
Yeah, you got Kentucky at Tennessee this weekend too. But I mean, you're coming into the time of the year where we're getting into Halloween weekend, and you're getting some rivalry games. I mean, your Wolverines are still 23-point favorites against Michigan State, but anything happens in a rivalry game.
It's terrible because Michigan State already went out and lost to UW. When I say UW, for those of you who don't know, that's the University of Washington. And even though Michigan State has had a horrible year, that doesn't mean they don't get pumped and get up and could throw Michigan off their momentum, throw them completely off their mojo.
Yeah, I mean, they're 3-4, but that you kind of throw records out the window in games like that.
Oh, absolutely. And Texas A&M, well, we already saw what happened to Texas A&M. You mentioned Tennessee. I mean, they're taking on Mississippi State. Or, no, they're taking on Mississippi. I apologize.
So, Ole Miss,
And then UCLA and Stanford, and you and I, we really touched on this. The Pac-12 has played their best football this year, probably in the last 4 years. I mean, it has been fun watching Pac-12 football right now.
Yeah, UCLA got its comeuppance a little bit with the Oregon Ducks last week, who all of a sudden have become national title contenders again after they're getting drubbed by Georgia in the first week of the season. But we got some more time left. We got lots of football to talk about, college, NFL coming up. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Clutch Time Sports right here on TNCRadio.live.
Don't forget, you can hear all of our TNC Radio primetime shows again on our podcasts. Just go to tncradio.live/podcasts or search for tncradio.live wherever you listen to podcasts. Finding a safe place to park your rig at night can be a challenge on the road. The Truckers Network, a membership resource site for trucking companies, company drivers, and owner-operators, proudly partners with Truck Park to offer safe and secure overnight truck parking to all Truckers Network members. Truck Park is the digital truck parking leader and America's fastest growing truck parking service. The Truckers Network exists to link truck drivers with the best quality trucking products and services the industry has to offer. Finding safe overnight parking is crucial for truck drivers, and many drivers struggle with finding available parking spots. The limited parking availability causes drivers to lose sleep, which poses a safety risk to others on the road. Safe parking is valuable for drivers and the cargo they're transporting. With this partnership, Truckers Network members will have access to a discount code and be able to reserve parking spots in real time along their truck route at a reduced price. Truck Park gives drivers access to parking locations across most of the United States. Simply enter the city and state to view available parking spaces nearest a pickup or delivery point, then pay to reserve. Parking rates vary at each location, with some rates as low as $10. Truck Park is a values-based company that empowers truck drivers while providing a safe and unmatched experience. The company offers a quick way to find and reserve parking spots throughout the U.S. Truck drivers have access to Truck Park's free mobile app to easily begin reserving parking spots based on their truck route. About the Truckers Network. The Truckers Network exists to link truckers and trucking businesses throughout the United States. The company's mission is to make the life of a truck driver easier by connecting drivers to the highest quality trucking products and services to keep their trucks on the road. I'm Shelley Johnson with Kathy Tuccaro. You can hear us Tuesdays on TNCRadio.live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Women Road Warriors. And don't miss Steve Summers' Overnight Drive right here on TNCRadio.live, weeknights midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Welcome back, Clutch Time Sports. Josh Banker alongside Ivan Anderson. Got about 10 minutes left to go on the show tonight. Been a good one, Ivan, and it's, it always goes by so much faster when you're not necessarily concentrating on one sport like we did the NBA last week, which as you and I both know, we could both talk hours about the NBA, but when you're talking World Series, you're talking some hockey and some college football, and you're talking about the NBA, and now we're really on to the NFL. I mean, what's interesting is that we're coming into that point of the season where you've had a big enough sample size to go, those New York Giants are actually pretty good.
Shocking, and I'm happy for them. The Eagles are right where they should be, and we were talking off air with Tom Kelly with them picking up their defensive end to shore up that defense for the Eagles. They're going to be even stronger. But the Giants, in the NFC East, the Eagles and the Giants are just running away with it. Cowboys are hanging in there in third place, but they always do that. They kind of do that. But, JD, I think the thing that really kind of shocked both of us is the NFC West. I did not expect the NFC West to be where they're at. Top team is 4-3. Wow. That's shocking.
And it's not one of the teams that we expected either.
No.
The team that got rid of Russell Wilson, that everybody thought was going to go in the tank, has all of a sudden made Geno Smith to be the next Russell Wilson, basically. And the Seahawks are the one that are 4-3, while the Rams, Niners, and Cardinals are a game behind with 3 wins apiece. But yeah, there are a lot of teams where you're like, Tampa, you shouldn't be losing to Carolina, who's 2-5 and who's starting their third string quarterback and their third string running back. But then there are teams like the New York Jets. Ivan, can you honestly name 2 players off of the New York Jets? And no, Vinny Testaverde is not one of them. But the New York Jets are the only team in football that have 4 road wins already.
The Jets and the Bills, we expect the Bills to be at the top of the AFC East.
Yep.
I thought that 2 would either be the Patriots or the Dolphins. I really thought it would be the Patriots. When's the last time you've seen a Belichick team at the bottom?
Yeah, but they're always one of those teams that you have to prepare for because they're never going to give you an easy game either. But yeah, it's interesting. The Bills are 5-1, kind of where everybody expected them to be. We are who they thought they were. Dennis Green, I miss that guy.
Absolutely.
But the Jets at 5-2, they just lost their big-time rookie running back Breece Hall to an ACL injury this last weekend, which it'll be interesting to see. They're looking like they're going to get James Robinson from Jacksonville to replace him. But yeah, you and I talked about this earlier too. Kansas City loses Tyreek Hill, and yet they're still 5-2 in a division that everybody expected to be really, really good, where Denver has just not been that good. Vegas has not been that good. The Chargers are 4-3, but it feels like they're like 2-5. It just, they're kind of winning ugly, and here are those Chiefs, I know. Here are those Chiefs, 5-2 again, like, ho-hum, here we are. Nobody really gives us respect, and here we're doing exactly what we do every year.
Yeah, but you just told me I lost my fantasy wide receiver, and I did not know he had a high ankle sprain.
Mike Williams for San Diego. I got to put $1 in. I was saying San Diego again with the Los Angeles Chargers. And I live here. How does that happen? I guess I'm human. Don't tell anybody.
And the AFC North is actually doing better than I thought it was going to do. And we talked about the AFC North, Ravens and the Bengals. We thought they would be at the top of the heat. But the Browns, they're really not playing like their 2-5 record. They're really playing to me like a 3-3 or 4-3 or a 3-5 team. Like, they're coming on strong. And I was watching some of the highlights from this past weekend. I thought they had a really good game.
Yeah, like I said, there's been a big enough sample size to be able to make some statements about teams like Giants and the Jets. And I know you talked about the Cowboys, but Cooper Rush did a great job replacing Dak Prescott after he got hurt in week 1. So for Dallas to be 5-2 and still kind of in the thick of things in the NFC East is remarkable. And I'm sure anybody that would bring in the backup quarterback for a guy like Prescott and see him go 3-1, they would be like, okay, I'll take it any day of the week.
What do you think the Cowboys are going to do in the postseason, though?
Well, I think that's still too far to give any kind of predictions on, because
talk about playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs, playoffs. But anyway, you just never know because of how injuries can decimate a team between now and the playoffs. But I tell you, Philly is scary, and because they added Robert Quinn today, who, he's got some pedigree in those playoffs. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of ride out this wave. I mean, they're 6-0. They're still the only undefeated team in the NFL, and I don't see this stopping anytime soon for them. They got your Steelers this weekend, and they're a really fun team to watch too.
They better beat them. They're just a really good team. But I wanted to pop real quick because I know we're running out of time here. I'm seeing a little bit of frustration that's coming with the Cardinals. And, that situation between the coach and quarterback didn't help, especially when you have a 3-4 record. Where are the Cardinals right now? I mean, they really should not be in last place in their division.
Well, what's interesting is that they've been known, at least for the last couple of years, for being a team that has gotten off to really hot starts and then just being awful in the second half of the season. And now they're kind of getting to the point where that awful second half is kind of running itself into the start of this season. So you wonder, they've not shown a penchant for trying to, or being able to get out of those holes that they create. They start, like I said, they start fast and then they just disappear. Well, they don't fight themselves out of those holes. And they've got DeAndre Hopkins back. That helps,
right,
for sure. Right. He will cure a lot of ills for them. But you're right. The coach, Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, they've had their issues. And I mean, it even started back before the season started with the whole contract, and you got to watch video. It's a requirement in contract. No, we're going to take really that dumb out. It's just, it's interesting because you got a young head coach and you got a young quarterback. It's a dynamic that neither one of those guys really knows how to handle.
Well, let's be honest. If it wasn't for Kyler Murray, Kingsbury wouldn't even be there. I mean,
probably not.
Let's be honest about that situation. But I won't belabor that. I'll jump right down to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and his strange comments that he makes about when to say something to his team and when not to say something to his team and when to be judgmental of his team. I'm not sure where he was going on that interview, but Aaron Rodgers were talking and everyone was listening.
Yeah, and he's standing by his comments on the offense and said that nobody had raised any issue with him about it. But I guess it's the clout that comes with being a Super Bowl champion and a quarterback that's been around as long as he has. But it's interesting because he hasn't faced this kind of adversity in quite a long time.
I think there's sometimes you get to a point with a team where it's just time to make a change. It's nothing personal. It's not the receivers or offensive or defensive line. There's just a time to be changed. I think there's you just need a new team. I mean, let's look what Brady did. He just got a new team. He got a ring out of it. Sometimes you just need a new start, and I think it's time for him to leave.
Well, speaking about time to leave, we got to get out of here. Yeah, you like that segue? Check us out on Twitter and Instagram at ClutchTime TNC. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you back here next Wednesday night, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. See you later, everyone.
Have a good night. Night.